emphasis that Travis and the coaching staff have had on fitness and being prepared for the start of the season, I think hopefully will help us, not only get off to a good start but stay healthy.
Steve, what was for Scarra from Post Media? What was your message to this team coming into camp?
It's an overused term, but I talked about the culture. I talked about I think our players are starting to see and sense a bit of a different attitude, a different, just a bit of a different feel around our group, and that's really the emphasis. And culture isn't, you can say the word, but you got to live it every day. And I do believe our players who have been here understand that now, and certainly with the additions, the type of players that we brought in, I think will certainly add to that.
You want this team to challenge for a playoff spot?
Absolutely. I think we're all, listen, I mean, we're here to win. We're here to, this group in particular at this point in time, I want to see them take that next step. And the belief and the confidence comes from some of the players that we've brought in to support this core group of players, but certainly this group has now been through a lot together, and I can sense the maturity, and I got full belief that they're going to take a step forward.
Steve, you say you sense the maturity, you're sensing it in attitude, but can you offer any tangibles where you're really seeing that kind of put into action ahead of time?
Yeah, I guess the tangibles will come with how we perform, and but certainly I just think that there's been there's a sense of professionalism, sense of maturity. Tangible, I mean, the conversations I've had, watching these players come in early and their commitment, their fitness level, I think that's sort of where I'm drawing that belief that they've taken that step.
Question for Steve. Tim Baines, Post Media. You had a chance to stand back, watch, evaluate over the course of a full season. And you made changes in the offseason, how does the makeup of this roster give you a better chance of being a playoff caliber team?
I would say balance, experience and balance. I think, Linus Ullmark in net for us, I think, gives us some confidence. And then the players that we've brought in that have had success, have been through long playoffs, won Stanley Cups. I feel like that experience, along with the goaltending, I mean, maybe the biggest, next step is this coaching staff. I think the depth of the coaching staff, led by Travis, the detail that the preparation that they've put in, and the detail that we're going to play with, I think gives us that belief.
I was just going to ask, I understand you can't accomplish everything you want right out of the gate here, so where are you kind of honing in here to start what you want to see, I guess, as your team starts to form its...
Yeah, you're right.
You don't get everything done right away. There's always a lot of talk about structure, teaching, and of course we'll have that in our camp. But for me, it's a little bit of mindset too, of how we want to play, how we want to be perceived, the identity that we want to have. Even, for example, tomorrow's practice, I'm looking for it to be competitive, high-paced execution, attention to details. And we want to be a team that's very competitive, and not only once in a while, but consistently.
Steve, can I just ask, you mentioned that everyone's healthy. Do you expect Josh Norris to be on the ice tomorrow as part of those sessions?
Yes.
Just to follow up actually on Josh Norris, this might be for Travis or yourself, Steve. How do you see his role potentially evolving? Do you see him as a center or possibly on the wing this year? And what kind of conversations have you had with him, given he's coming into training camp again off of a surgery, and we saw how tentative he was to get into the mix last year?
Yeah, I see him as a center. It's his natural position. He's had success at this level at that position. So I think to start, it's important to put him into that spot. But just in my conversations, without knowing him in the past, he seems very confident and excited to get going, and mature as well. Honest conversations about where he's at physically, mentally, and obviously we'll continue to have dialogue with him to see where he's at. I would expect that he'll, there's always bumps and bruises along the way, especially when you're coming off injury, and we'll monitor it daily to assess where he's at and what he needs to get ready for the home opener.
Coach, accountability is a huge factor in team sports.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy, and how far will you take accountability if a guy is not doing what you expect of him? Would you bench a player, or what are your thoughts on holding players accountable?
Well, to answer your question, yes, I would bench a player. I think every coach will bench a player. And accountability comes in lots of different ways. But for me, the baseline of it is building a relationship, having communication, open, honest communication with a player, gaining their trust, that they know that you have the best for them. I always find that if you have that type of relationship, accountability is often a lot easier to have within your group. But again, I've never seen a player get benched for playing too good. If you play well, you play up to expectations, what's expected of you, what's not just yourself, but individuals within the team, in the team game, certain level of competitiveness, work, team first mindset. There won't be a reason to bench a player.
If you describe yourself as a coach, would you be considered a tough coach?
No. I mean, fair, firm, demanding, honest.
Comes back on what Tim asked you. You have the reputation to have a tough training camp. You just said you're demanding. Are you that demanding in training camp? And if yes, why? And how does it prepare your players better?
I don't think I'm too demanding, if that's what you're asking. Nothing that I'm asking for the players to do are they ever capable of doing. I also believe that they're very well prepared for our camp. I think if you go around the league, a lot of camps are demanding. It's training camp. That's what training camp's for, to get you ready to play game one and be prepared for game one. And you've had a whole off season of not, really playing physical, hard hockey, competitive hockey, and you've got to get into it. It's a short training camp. But I think for me, the biggest thing is showing up ready to have a demanding training camp. And, I think just looking at our group and talking to them, I think a lot, to a man, they're ready.
Travis, when you look at your roster, where do you envision positionally being the biggest competition at training camp?
There's going to be competition everywhere. You can look at our forwards. It's no secret. You know who. Everyone knows who's mainstays on our group, but there is competition up front for certain spots. On the back end, there's also competition, and for me, best guys play. Like whoever's playing well is going to play. It's not complicated. If a player A deserves to be on the team, he'll be here. And if he doesn't, he won't.
What's maybe the challenge for you? Like, this team's quite young still, and you're trying to kind of grow that core, but also trying to develop them while also instilling those habits, kind of winning habits. Like, what's that challenge to?
I don't think it's challenging. It's just doing it. Like you said, our core group is young, and they have to not only learn how to win, but improve. And our team, for us to get to the next level, get to playoff hockey, we need to play better. And a big part of that is our core players continuing to develop and be better players.
The key things are to learn how to lead for you as a coach. Like, how do you just...
Well, it's your daily habits. It's really how you look at the game, how you show up, how you compete, how you work, and being consistent with it. You look around the league through the history of the league. There's not a lot of young players that just come into the league and get it right away, and that takes some time. Almost every championship team, they've gone through tough lessons and hard lessons, and we've got to get to those lessons. And that's your group has to mature internally. Steve's done a great job bringing in people that have won before that are also going to help with our young core. And, the coach's responsibility is help them along and teach them, talk about things like expectations, how we want to play, identity, the competitiveness of how we want to play, and being consistent with it. And, when you come to play Ottawa, you don't want it to be a fun game, and we need to get to that.
We talked about competition internal during the camp. You feel like you're in a position to the camp. It's all a numbers game oftentimes, so you feel you have enough flexibility to make room for any players who comes in to camp and forces your hand.
Yeah, I mean, we've allowed us some flexibility. I think there's always the ability to maneuver and make things happen. It's obviously challenging. It's a puzzle with the salary cap. Our late signing with Nick Cousins, really just a solid player that we could add. We left ourselves enough room so we had the ability to do that later on in the off season, and still have a little bit of ability to be able to make some moves if we need to.
Kind of a specific question, but everybody's talking about the veteran leadership of Linus Ullmark, just what he brings to a team. What's your vision when it comes to goaltending, and how many games do you foresee the number one goaltender getting?
Well, I don't like to put just an exact number on it. And with any elite goalie, if you talk to them, they probably want to play every game, every night. And that's what competitors want. As a coach, I'd love that too, but it's not reality. We've got to map it out. I know with Linus, much like other starting goalies, there's that magic number, 50 games, where's it at? And part of it is, how's your backup playing as well? And do you have confidence putting your backup in? And I believe we're going to have a really good tandem this year. But he's going to play a lot of games. I don't have an exact number. I'd hate to say a number and then it not happen. So, but he's, that 50 number is a good number, and I know he wants to play as many as he can as well.
Steve, how important was it for you to add more of a physical presence to the team? When I speak of physical, I don't mean fighters. I mean guys who maybe are just tough to play against. They hit, they're pests or whatever. How important to this makeup of the team was that?
Well, I think you've heard Travis use the word competitive a number of times already. It's and if you can have depth and competitiveness throughout your lineup, it was certainly an area of focus. I think, through the regular season, but especially in the playoffs, I think when you have that type of competitiveness from each one of your players through the lineup, lines 1 through 4, and then through your defense core as well, I think becomes important. I mean, it's with all the players I think that we've added, they have certainly a natural competitiveness that and they play to that line on a nightly basis, and they don't have to be asked to do it. It's natural for them.
Do you believe last year's roster was maybe a bit soft in that they didn't have maybe that competitive factor to them?
I wouldn't go that far. I think there was so much. You lose. The team lost confidence. There's a lot that happened to this group. So, but it's different. It's balanced. Are we more competitive? I think to a man, yeah. I think you could say that. But I don't think last year's team was soft. I don't think that. They gained the confidence and could really show it, but certainly I think with the depth of competitiveness of the players that we've brought in has certainly made us better in that area.
Wayne Scanlon from Sportsnet. For either of you, really, just curious if you're planning any kind of retreat or team building exercise toward the end of camp.
No, we're not doing anything specific to that effect. I think the team building is going to come through our day-to-day here.
We've got a couple of road trips at the beginning of the year that are nice to get away
right.
as well.
But nothing specific if you're looking at us going to do a ropes course or something like that.
Travis, when you look, did you watch much video in the summertime of last year's group?
Fair amount.
Were you able to identify with the returning players any troubles with the way they play?
I wouldn't call it troubles. I think every player, I've spoke to every player about areas that I think they need to be better in. And, when you don't make the playoffs, you can nitpick a lot of your game. There's a lot of areas we need to be better at, and not only as a group, which will come on as we work together, but also individual play in areas that they need improvement. I'm not going to get into specifics with players. I'm not one for doing that. But there was definitely clear messages sent to individuals of what I'd like to see from them when they come back.
When it comes to all the preseason games, what's your approach with regards to, one, finding chemistry with lines, and two, having to evaluate players? How do you see that kind of shaking out?
I'm not big in at the beginning of the camp that you have to have everyone playing together that's going to play together. Play's a little choppy. There's usually 50 to 60 guys in each training camp. So we'll take the first 4 days, watch, and then play a couple games within the two teams that we have in camp. And you might see some shuffling from the third group that's a smaller group, guys up and down into the top two groups. And then we'll kind of assess things there and see where we're at for the final 5 games.
One other thing you talked about was just building relationships, getting to know the players. I
Yeah.
mean, 56 players is a lot.
Yeah.
How many conversations have you had one-on-one, and has it been in person? Has it been on the phone? Like, how much work have you done to get to know each player?
Yeah, a lot. I've talked to every player that's played here or played in the league. A couple guys that haven't. I've had some individual meetings, a couple group meetings with different players on the team. Tried to have a lot of touches in a lot of different ways, whether it's just having a coffee, walking by, saying hi. I think that's just the part of that process of building relationship where you feel comfortable around each other. And I've gone about it a little bit differently this time than in Vancouver, and I feel good where we're at. I know our group has a clear understanding of what's expected tomorrow, where we want to go, how we're going to get there, and the work that it's going to take.
And when it comes to team culture, sort of last thing I'll say on this, do you set a culture and try to get every guy to follow suit, or do you try to tap into, okay, this guy needs a little bit different than this guy, and let individuals be themselves?
Well, first of all, I coach players individually. I don't coach them all exactly the same because they are individual people. So as far as culture, that's something that it's a buzzword around the league. But what we want, the habits, the traits within our players, we openly have those discussions. And quite honestly, they might not all be perfect in all the areas that we talk about. But if they're honest with their assessment of themselves, they know where they have to improve. And one thing for sure, we want to be a work-based team, a compete-based team. It starts there. And I think our guys, like I said, they have clear direction of what we want out of them.
Like the conversations you have with your players, like, are they asking you questions during that time too, or are they just kind of listening most of it? Or
It's just, it's different. Like sometimes it's an actual hockey conversation where I'm telling them what I see. I'm also asking, what they like, how, certain things. I'd like to think it's back and forth dialogue, but there is at some point some direct conversation between what I see in their game, but also getting feedback from them what is important, how they see themselves as players. I think that's important that they feel that the coach is listening to them.
Murray Ham, Full Press. Question for Steve. Can you talk about the surprise, I guess, PTO of Nikolai Kluman, how that came about, and what's expected of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good pro. I think we talk about competitiveness at camp. He's 38 years old. He's in outstanding shape, and I think he'll add some competitiveness. Played at a high level in the KHL, and and I think for our younger players to see what it takes to be able to continue to perform at the pro level. But he's a good pro.
Steve, it'd be easy to pin the blame on your goalies. They didn't make enough saves last year. But did the problems in your own end go much deeper than that?
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, it's not. You can't pin it just on the goaltending. But certainly, we felt like we've upgraded in that area. We look at the numbers, and getting scored on early in a lot of those games was, it's a tough league, you know, and the margins are very, very slim from game to game. So, you know, again, we feel like we've improved in that area, but certainly there's a lot of things that we can do as a team to be able to be more competitive. And the structure and the detail that the coaching staff has been working on, Travis is already, and you'll see it probably early in camp on looking at those details on the defensive side. I think it's going to be important for us.
Anything else?
I guess I have one. Any sense of when you feel like Olmark will be settled in enough where you want to start talks?
I won't get into contract negotiations with anybody. I think, you know, we want Linus to be comfortable here in Ottawa, and so been here for a month, you know. So that was the main priority, and for all of our players. I mean, I think I have full confidence in what we're doing as an organization. I think it's, you know, the Ottawa-Gatineau community is second to none for an NHL player and family. You get to play in a Canadian market. You get, you know, you get the best of both worlds, and the people, and I think the way that they embrace our players, I have confidence that not only with Linus but with all of our players that it's just a great place to play.
Thank you.